Bless you. Can't have it though. Life be like that. I gotta stream it earlier in the day too. It was good, man. Why do you need tequila, Robert? Liquid heat? Are you cold? Huh? Tequila. You know what else is liquid heat? Moonshine. Nice, Thanos. Whiskey. Yeah. Big red whiskey. If I need to, maybe. I wanna hold the baby.
Oh my goodness. I want to throw myself off a cliff. That was the cutest yarn I have ever seen in my life. Oh,
She's not trying to eat anything, is she? Okay.
being cutest ever. And, which is almost tradition at this point, this is a baby live. We haven't had a baby live in a while. We've had toddler lives.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh, oh.
Yeah, we got tiny baby
I
lives.
feel farting. Are you tooting? Are you tooting on Dada? Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Oh! Bless you.
Sneeze.
Yeah. It was like a good 4 second fart and then a big sneeze.
Yeah, she seems to. I don't know if it's the bottles, but like she. First of all, if she does have a burp, she's a quick burper.
Yeah.
But like she seems to get all of her most of her gas out of her butt.
Mm-hmm. Huh? Right there. Oh, your goodness, you're so awake. You're so active and looking at me. Hello. Oh. Costco rotisserie chicken is a what you would call a religious artifact that you must pilgrim to. You must pay your qualms before entering the said religious temple, grasping the plastic handle and experiencing the savory sensations and smells of a Costco rotisserie chicken completes me. Oh my goodness, big yarn. You look like you couldn't be blinder. I look Serbian. Me? Luffy? No. If I look Serbian, we got a problem in life. It's not mine.
Westward from the Davis Strait is there 'twas said to lie. The sea route to the Orient, for which so many died.
Yeah, we believe in eating meat around here.
Gold and glory, leaving weathered, broken bones, as a long forgotten, lonely cairn of stones. Ah, for just one time, I would take the Northwest Passage to find the hand of Franklin, reaching for the Beaufort Sea, tracing one warm line through a land so wide and savage, and make a Northwest Passage to the sea. 3 centuries thereafter, I take passage overland in the footsteps of brave Kelsey, where his sea of flowers began. Watching cities rise before me, then behind me sink again. This hardiest explorer, driving hard across the plain. Ah, for just one time, I would take the Northwest Passage to find the hand of Franklin, reaching for the Beaufort Sea, tracing one warm line through a land so wide and savage,
Yeah.
and make a
What do you
Northwest
want me to do with hers for now?
to the sea.
Like are you good? Like, do you want me to hold her for a little bit until you like get solid asleep or what?
I think upon Mackenzie, David Thompson, and the rest who cracked the mountain ramparts, and it showed a path for me to raise the roaring Fraser to for just one time, I would take the Northwest Passage to find the hand of Franklin, reaching for the Beaufort Sea.
I'm like my normal hour.
Through a land so wide and savage, and make a Northwest Passage to the sea. How then am I so different from the first man through this way? Like them, I left a saddened life, I threw it all
Loves
away.
being held.
To see
For sure.
the
She's
Northwest
confident now.
Passage at the call of many men, to find there but the road back home again. Ah, for just one time, I would take the Northwest Passage to find the hand of Franklin, reaching for the Beaufort Sea, tracing one warm line through a land so wide and savage, and make a Northwest Passage to the sea. For just one time, I would take the Northwest Passage to find the hand of Franklin, reaching for the Beaufort Sea, tracing one warm line through a land so wide and savage, and make a Northwest passage to the sea and make a northwest passage to the sea.
I think I want to listen to an audiobook. You want to listen to story time? Oh, sorry, honey.
Considered herself a damn good pilot. The people who completed UNEF training and qualified for the Merry Band of Pirates were elite, the best of the best. Desai had no illusions that she could have qualified.
No, it's not
She
my
was our
first
chief
job.
pilot because she earned her experience the hard way,
Second.
and simply because I trusted her. Hearing her say that always reminded me that I would not have qualified to serve aboard the Flying Dutchman. So maybe I should trust the people who had put in the enormous effort required to qualify as a Merry Pirate. Anyway, it still made me nervous to have so many new people aboard the ship. I didn't know these people, and I was afraid of making a bad first impression by doing some doofus thing they would never forget. Pilot, I tried to project confidence. Jump coordinates confirmed?
I
Confirmed, sir.
am
Shepard
not.
said after a glance at his console.
I am not Brown
Looking at the
Strong.
console was for my benefit. He already knew the system was properly programmed. Maybe he sensed my discomfort. It's 106 light years to Ursa Major. We have a full tank of gas, half a pack of chewing gum. It's dark. He looked at the main display that was showing a black star field. Pulling a set of Ray-Bans from a pocket, he added, "And I'm wearing
Yeah, I'm holding a
sunglasses."
baby.
Right then, I knew we had a good pilot. Pointing to him, I ordered,
No, it's
Hit it.
television.
we jumped.
Don't make me laugh.
To the great
Oh,
surprise
no.
of pretty much everyone on Earth, Valkyrie led the way to
Damn.
Avalon less than 3 weeks later. The Flying Dutchman followed right behind, with 3 multi-mission modules bolted onto
Nah,
the
it's
Dutchman
tactical
version
nuclear warhead.
4.0's rather stumpy spine. Inside one of the modules were 882 people, including Frank Muller.
Baby.
How did we manage to
Are
jump
you
away
holding
so
a
quickly
baby?
after UNEF
Someone in
announced the
chat
go-ahead to
replied
colonize
with, nah,
Avalon?
it's a television.
It's simple. They dusted off plans that had already been approved. Food and other supplies were
saying I look like
stockpiled
this
around
guy.
the planet, and extensive work had
No,
been
you
done to
don't.
convert one of the multi-mission modules to carry
6'8".
human passengers.
300
While I had been flying around the planet and going on
Yeah.
vacation, Skippy was working to add attachment points to the Flying Dutchman,
Oh, you
so our
sound
former
mean.
star carrier could transport 3 of those modules. The old Dutchman looked ridiculous with the modules hanging on its spine, and Nagatha reported the ship maneuvered like an overloaded oil tanker. But it could jump, and that's all we needed it to do. Hopefully, we soon would have real star carriers and passenger ships, and the Dutchman could, well, it could do whatever UNEF assigned that ship to do. Truthfully, I was worried about the future of our trusty old ship.
Coolest ship.
UNEF Command had asked Skippy
Ever.
about the possibility of cutting the ship apart to refit Jaratha warships we hope to acquire, and I told him to slow roll giving an answer. While I understood the practical value of using resources in the most efficient manner, damn it, the Dutchman was special. Even though that ship had few original parts left from when we took it from the Theranin, it deserved better than to be used as a hangar queen. We also could not move Nagatha into a ship without tearing out the substrate embedded into the Dutchman's forward hull, and she wouldn't be the same. Damn. I don't want to think about it. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, how fast UNEF threw the mission together. Like I said, a lot of the prep work had been
You
done
will
before the
learn
Jaratha ships
about
arrived, with over 20,000 people returning home
Strength
from
as a
Paradise.
man,
Oddly,
grip strength
one element
as
of
a man,
preparation that I assumed would be the most
and
difficult
like
was
the
actually the
buildup
easiest.
of real
Selecting
lactic
colonists.
acid in your body.
Thinking about how to recruit
holding
colonists
your
gave me a
kids.
headache, but UNEF had already
Because
done that.
realistically,
They had
I'm
a
going
list
to
of
have a higher
50,000
pain tolerance
volunteers who
holding
were
my own
approved for
kid,
Avalon.
feeling less
All
agitated.
that was
about it.
required was to confirm
Not
the applicants still
because
wanted to
the
go,
fact that
replace
my
people
body
who
is
dropped out with ones
having
lower on the list, and
you
prioritize
know,
the list to about
primordial
4,000
hormones
names.
that are helping
They needed to
me
have useful
regulate
skills
my
to get
emotions
along well
while
with others,
handling
and
my
there were
kid.
other requirements like
At
being
the same
passively
time,
fluent in either English or Chinese.
You
As a
will
practical
learn
matter, the first wave of colonists needed to communicate
not
with each other.
focusing
and-
on pain.
Okay, enough about the
it's
practical
interesting.
aspects of selecting colonists. Somebody else had done all the work. All I had to do was take Valkyrie out to escort the good old Dutchman. We followed the now familiar routine of waking up and going through the Super Duty wormhole that connects the Milky Way to the Sculptor Dwarf Galaxy. While we didn't say anything to the crew, Skippy and I had a moment of anxiety waiting for the dormant wormhole to respond. He could not be absolutely certain that the wormhole network would not lock him out because of all the other shenanigans he had gotten into, like relocating wormholes to places they were not supposed to be. We both breathed a sigh of relief, or I did, and he emulated the experience, when the Super Duty wormhole
How
woke up and
scrunkly
stabilized without a
little
glitch.
newborns
Ditto
are.
with going through the wormhole in Sculptor. It accepted the password immediately without comment, and I took Valkyrie through. The recon took a full day, which was enough time to determine there were no detectable threats in or near the star system. Avalon itself appeared to be okay. Native vegetation had overgrown the fields of experimental plants we left, and structures in the camp looked exactly as they were when we left. The entity at Maris was functioning properly as programmed by Skippy. The stealth field covering that world was gone. A stretched-out gravity well had returned almost to normal. Skippy reported minimal effects on the orbits of other planets, and he expressed confidence that as a colony and safe haven, Avalon was good enough for monkeys. Anyway, blah blah blah, we dropped the supplies first, then landed the colonists. After endless irritating delays, we turned our ships around and headed home. The next trip to Avalon was not scheduled for 8 months, to give time for the people there to set up infrastructure that could eventually accommodate up to 50,000 more people. My mother would think Avalon was getting too crowded already. All the way home, I waited for disaster
You know what?
to strike.
You know what we're gonna
We
do?
arrived at the far end of Backstop. The Dutchman waited in.
We're listening to what I am listening to, right? I've reread this book series. I'm on my second listen through. And I think you might as well just start with the first book, because y'all have never read the book. So if you want a little bit of a story time, or you have a friend who would love that type of live, who will be listening to a book, strap up. I'm about to load the first novel from the Expeditionary Force.
News with Spec Ops.
This is Onward.
Podium Publishing presents Columbus Day. Cosmos on our little blue marble like the Native Americans in Fort Gallinson. Performed by R.C. Bray. Chapter 1, Columbus Day. The Ruha hit us on Columbus Day. Every country had a name for the day the Ruha attacked. The common name that stuck after a while was Columbus Day. I guess that makes sense. There we were, innocently drifting along in the cosmos on our little blue marble like the Native Americans in 1492. Over the horizon come ships of a technologically advanced, aggressive culture, and bam! There go the good old days, when we humans only got killed by each other. So, Columbus Day. It fits. When the morning sky twinkled with what we later learned were Ruha ships jumping into high orbit, we were curious. When power plants, refineries, factories, and other industrial sites around the planet started getting pounded from orbit with hypersonic railgun darts, we were shocked. For me personally, when a Ruha combat transport dropped out of the sky and skidded across a potato field outside my tiny hometown in northern Maine, that was when I became officially alarmed. It was a Monday morning in early October, the Columbus Day holiday in America. I was home on leave from the Army, visiting my folks, taking a break after my battalion got rotated home from peacekeeping duty in Nigeria. What a shit job that was. I was happy to be home in the States. My leave was ended by a burning streak across the sky as the Ruha transport came directly over my truck. It arced over the lake and crashed in the Olafson's potato field, plowing up dirt and potatoes until its nose was half submerged in a pond. It wobbled side to side for a minute with a screaming sound coming from its engines. Then it took off and flew low and unsteadily over the tree line toward the center of town, trailing smoke from its underside. Our supposed allies, the Kristang, think that Ruha assault transport was damaged during the drop from orbit and fell short of its intended target, since that is the only possible reason the Ruha would have invaded Thompson Corners, Maine. Hell, I didn't want to be there anymore. That's why I joined the Army in the first place. My hometown is nice enough. It's simply nothing special.
A Ruhar looks like the hamsters from the Kia Soul commercials. Think that 6 foot in combat armor and a rifle.
There's potatoes and cattle and sheep and other farming, of course. And some
It's
people,
fucking
like
hilarious.
my dad, had jobs at
And they still, like, what I mean by bipedal and 2 arms, 2 legs, standing upright creature. Think humans with a little bit more reptilian features. A little bit more is a lot more in this sense. They get the fucking nickname fucking lizards all the time. I just think of them as really fucking lizard-like. What you would think Hillary Clinton is behind her mask. But warrior caste society, honor-driven, biologically bigger than an average human, muscular-wise. Even if you go past genetically modifying your species to be stronger, they're already kind of like strong as fuck. Anyway.
the big paper mill down in Milliconic. And you could get by with some lumbering, working as a hunting or fishing guide, a little welding on the side, whatever. Nobody in northern Maine relies on one job. Anyway, Thompson Corners is not the sort of vital strategic target that military planners would think of when deciding where to drop from orbit a combat transport with a dozen or so heavily armed troops. The Ruha troops, cute and furry bewhiskered bastards that they are, no doubt waited until their transport finally skidded to a stop on the front lawn of the elementary school in the middle of town, popped the door open, gazed in awe at the magnificent vista of Thompson Corners, and asked the pilot where the hell they were. Soldiers are soldiers, whether they have fur, skin, or scales. So logically, the Ruha lobbed a missile at the most imposing structure in the area, the potato warehouse, and took it out in impressive fashion. I mean, they blew the hell out of it. Those soldiers must have had something against potatoes. Next, they destroyed the two bridges across the Scannicut River, the railroad bridge and the old concrete highway bridge that's been there since it was built by FDR's Works Progress Administration in the 1930s. We'd had a lot of rain, and the river was running high, so with the bridge out, the only way for me to get into town was to drive all the way to Woodford and cross the river there. Like the old New England joke, you can't get there from here, right? Nice idea, if the roads hadn't been clogged with panicked traffic and 100 other people didn't have the same idea I had at the same time. When I saw that assault ship coming in, trailing smoke behind it and headed for the center of Thompson Corners, I was already in my parents' pickup truck on my way into town to pick up my sister from a friend's house. It was 10 minutes after the first sights got hit. The radio said the governor had just declared a state of emergency, urged everyone to remain calm. Then all communications went down. No radio, no cell phones, no TV, no electricity. I didn't need to wait for instructions. I was going to pick up my kid sister, get back home, and hunker down with my family until I figured out what the hell was happening. Behind the seat was my father's bird hunting shotgun and a box of shells that were good for quail and not much else. Shows how clearly I was thinking that morning. All my Army gear, including my rifle, were back at Fort Drum in New York State. I was, after all, on leave. Coming over the hill, I saw the ruins of the bridges and nearly crashed into a line of traffic that was trying to get into town like I was. Bill Geary, a volunteer firefighter and a retired captain from the Maine National Guard, was getting people organized to drive over to Woodford and come into Thompson Corners using the old fire road. I, like a dumbass, shouted that my truck had four-wheel drive. Almost everybody in northern Maine has four-wheel drive, even if it's only a beat-up old Subaru. Since I was last in line, I got turned around first, and three guys whose car had gone in a ditch jumped in my truck. We roared off like the cavalry coming to the rescue in a movie. By the time we fought through outbound traffic to get across the bridge in Woodford and bounced along the poorly maintained fire road halfway toward town, the Ruhar had already secured the center of Thompson Corners.
Again,
the town was empty.
Think 6 foot tall Kia Soul commercial hamsters. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about? You know what I mean? Just keep that in your mind.
Because no humans had waited for an engraved invitation to get the hell out of there. One sheriff's deputy panicked and fired off a couple shots with his 9mm service weapon, until the Ruhar got annoyed and took out the shell station he was hiding in with what looked like an anti-tank rocket. I've seen Ruhar up close since then, plenty of times. No, they don't eat humans, and no, they don't kill babies.
I like where your mind's at, though. StarCraft Society loves StarCraft. No, I am playing the first book out of the Expeditionary Force, because I've listened to the book series. I'm on my second listen through. I'm on the 11th through the 19th book, and I just really want to let y'all experience the first novel, because it's good.
Believe the propaganda if you want. I know what I've seen.
I'm on... Oh, wait, Mr. Bones, I don't think you've seen her yet, have you? Letting Mama get a few hours of uninterrupted sleep. So we're doing a little bit of a story time. So we're all relaxed and chilled out. And generally...
If that sheriff's deputy hadn't opened fire, the Ruhar might not have killed a single person in town. I couldn't blame the Ruhar. If some idiot was taking pot shots at me, I'd light him up with a rocket too. I know, because I'd done the same thing in Nigeria.
And Mom...
Anyway,
did fantastic.
The Forest Service gate
More
across the fire
fantastic.
road was locked. We wasted 5 minutes while a guy 3 trucks ahead of us tried blasting the lock with a shotgun. Surprise! The Forest Service had anticipated somebody trying that, and that lock wouldn't budge. A guy rammed the gate and busted both the gate and the radiator of his truck, which then needed to be pushed off the road before the rest of us could squeeze by and drive through. Yeah, everybody has a story from that day. This is my story. So shut up and listen.
Oh.
One thing I've learned is that Ruhar Army grunts are like grunts across the galaxy. They want to get the combat over with and get back to their barracks, or dens in their case. Did I hate them? Hell yes. But I don't think they meant to kill people, at least except as collateral damage. Whatever their objective was on Earth, these troops had missed their landing zone and were making the best of the situation. Everybody would have been better off if those Ruhar had sat in their busted transport with their thumbs up their asses, called the Ruhar version of AAA, and waited for a tow truck. Combat ops don't work that way. Something gets screwed up on every mission. You adapt and do the best you can to accomplish your objective. This group of Ruhar decided their objective was to secure Penobscot County, whether that made sense or not. The Kristang told us that the Ruhar's most likely plan was to destroy our industrial infrastructure and knock us back into the Stone Age, so we'd be no threat to them. If that was their original objective...
As much as that, like Prima Victoria, Pax Monica type mentality that I fear any kind of species would have to think of themselves, because, of course, hey, we're just existing, and if I'm facing extinction... Of course, but I think it's more of there's a lot of space, and it's very off. Like honestly, not odd to have sections of this of space that are relatively empty, and in our case, we're in a spot. It's pretty relatively empty. So, no idea why we haven't seen aliens yet. I personally think maybe they have come in the past. Oh, cool! A society in their medieval Renaissance. Very awesome. Okay, this place is boring. Let's leave. There's shit everywhere. I don't know. It's just like not going to be necessarily interested in something. Now, it'd be interesting if they came by now. Be like, oh, they're getting about.
If they missed it by a couple 100 miles when they
Means
landed
your
in
lives.
Thompson Corners. The Kristang were mostly telling the truth about why the Ruha hit us, although they lied about everything else, which I'll get to eventually. We shouldn't even be fighting the Ruha. They aren't our enemy.
Think Kristang as, yes, they're lizard-like enough to be called lizards. Very, all the jokes ever about taking off the mask of a Democrat or of a world leader and then being a reptilian. Think the woman reptilian from Doctor Who that befriends Doctor, or the Doctor. I kind of think of that, but a little bit like 25% more. I don't know. The definitions for this book, no one's drawn a Kristang. They have it on the wiki, but let me find what the picture they intended.
Our allies are. I better start at the beginning.
Yeah, here.
My name is Joe Bishop. I was 20 years old on the day the Ruha attacked Earth, a specialist in the U.S. Army. Before the Army cut it, I had slightly longer than medium-length hair of an indeterminate blonde-brown color, which I got from my mother. She called the color mouse fur brown, and had dyed her own hair a golden blonde for as long as I could remember. Blue eyes I got from both my parents, and my height at 6 feet 3 inches definitely came from my father's side. My mom barely stands 5'4" in her stocking feet. In high school, I played third base on the baseball team, wide receiver on the football team, and was a backup shooting guard on the basketball team, although I didn't play basketball my senior year. Truth is, I wasn't a star athlete at baseball or football either. I worked hard, put the team first, and we won our share of games. But when it came time to send out applications to colleges, I didn't know where I wanted to go to school or what I wanted to be when I grew up, other than knowing that I didn't want to sit behind a desk all day, and that I wanted to get out of Thompson Corners. My father had been in the Air Force for a couple of years. Then he went into the reserves as a mechanic. Same type of job he did at the paper mill. He liked working with his hands, fixing stuff, and I kind of did too. Money was tight, and I didn't want to bury myself in debt with student loans.
This is an example of
So
a
the military
Ruhar.
sounded good to me. When I signed up for the Army, I did it because I wanted to serve my country, and because the Army would pay for college. The life also appealed to me. I loved the outdoors. Camping, hunting, fishing, hiking, canoeing. The training was tough, sure.
The original
Nothing that I
wiki,
didn't
man,
expect.
is fucking
And I was proud to get through
hilarious.
basic and be assigned where I wanted. The 10th Mountain Infantry Division in Fort Drum, New York. Peacekeeping duty in Nigeria wasn't what I would have wished for, but we got orders and I went. I was surprised that peacekeeping involved killing so many people, but it is what it is. So now you know why I was laying under a bush atop a small ridge that overlooked the center of my hometown, staring at that busted Ruha transport ship, laying there and trying to figure out what, if anything, we should do. That is one big damned hamster, Bish. You ain't lying, Tom Paulson said as he handed the binoculars back to me. What are we gonna do? I don't know yet. Let me think. There were plenty of military veterans around my hometown. I had one of them with me. But Tom had been a Navy supply clerk 20 years ago, and I was Army infantry with recent combat experience and on active duty. I guess it made sense the others were looking at me for ideas. They knew I'd been in combat in Nigeria. Fighting disorganized, homegrown militia fanatics in the bush was totally different from tangling with giant space hamsters in my hometown of northern Maine.
A little bubbler when I was doing that. I've kind of like,
Is this all
I'm
we
cutting
got?
back a little
I
because
looked in dismay at
we're can't really afford to pick, and dab's been a bit much lately, so we have a tiny little vape, and that's it right now.
the collection of hunting rifles, shotguns, and the odd
Needed something
9mm
for the
handgun.
hospital.
Everybody in Thompson Corners had a gun because everybody hunted, or at least needed to keep bears away from their backyard bird feeders. Come on, nobody has an old M60 in the attic? Maybe an AK? Hell, Bish, I want to kill a moose so I can eat it, not vaporize the damn thing. Tom said. Hunting licenses ain't cheap. All right, me too. I looked through the binocs again at the hamsters patrolling the streets of my hometown, at the dark smoke coming from the potato warehouse, across town by the railroad tracks, which was still burning, at the hamsters' shuttle or landing craft or infantry assault ship or whatever they called it.
Thankfully, diapers, we have plenty of people to help for that.
And a thin stream
If
of
we ever
white
have an
smoke
issue.
coming from the belly as it sat on the front
Like my
lawn of the
parents just
elementary
watched
school.
my,
Hamsters.
Silas
We have
for a
other
few
names
days
for
while
them.
we were doing
Rats,
this whole
weasels,
debacle,
rodents,
and they got
they
the
find golden
numbers. So it's like it's
round
really not that
faces
hard.
and whiskers. What they most look like are hamsters. Except hamsters.
Difficulty
aren't
is actually
6 feet tall,
finding some in the
standing on
stores,
2 legs, wearing
because,
body armor, helmets, and goggles,
Size 4
carrying
diapers are
evil-looking
the
rifles
number
and-
one most sought after diaper in terms of numbers, because that's the diaper size they stay the longest at. And you'll see it. 1, 2, 3, 5. Floor, an empty slot with nothing there.
Coming down from orbit in an assault ship. That I know of. I mean, I never owned a hamster, so what do I know? We didn't know they were hamsters until one of them in the doorway of their ship, maybe the pilot because he didn't have a rifle, took his helmet off, got something from his pocket and started eating it. He got yelled at and put his helmet back on, but not before we saw his furry head and hamster ears. They weren't exactly hamsters, but close enough. Susie Tobin lifted her eye from the scope of a .30-06 hunting rifle. What about the quarry? They have dynamite, right?
30-06.
Susie was about 5 feet nothing. Her day job was a teacher at the regional middle school. And looking at her, you wouldn't think she could even lift her old Army surplus rifle. But I'd seen the racks of deer antlers tacked up on the south side of her barn, so she sure knew how to use it. What are we doing with dynamite? Diego scoffed. Run up to that ship of theirs and throw it through the door? You wouldn't get within 100 yards before they cut you down. She's right, I said, thinking of the hell that IEDs caused us in Nigeria. They were a problem on the roads, but especially dangerous when we were patrolling a village where sight lines were limited and there were plenty of places to conceal a bomb. Patrolling, like the hamsters were doing right now. Pairs of hamsters were checking out buildings in the center of town, which, considering it is Thompson Corners, isn't much. You may think that being the Columbus Day holiday, there would have been lots of tourists in town when the Ruha dropped in for a visit. If you think that, you've never had the good fortune of visiting my hometown. Columbus Day is a big leaf-peeping holiday in New England, a weekend when city folk from down south drive out to the country to see the colorful foliage on the trees, stay in quaint little inns and bed and breakfast places, and take lots of pictures. We do get tourists in our part of the great North Woods, but not for leaf peeping. By Columbus Day, a lot of the trees around here had already dropped their leaves, and our part of Maine is
right now
pretty
she's
flat
breastfeeding,
anyway.
which is
Plus, the pine trees don't turn color.
right.
People come here for canoeing, fishing, hunting, and snowmobiling. There isn't a whole lot of that going on the first part of October,
She
so the town was
is
pretty
doing
empty when
breastfeeding
the
right
Ruha
now,
crash
so
landed.
we're
The
good
day
on
being
that.
a school holiday and all. Damn good thing, too. I couldn't imagine what would have happened if the elementary school had been full when the Ruha took control of the town. I didn't have to imagine that scenario, since I'd already seen that in the movie Red Dawn. And a good one, made way back when Reagan was in office, not the crappy one they made later. Anyway, I had an idea. Susie, your father works at the quarry, right? You and Tom get us dynamite, detonators, wires, whatever we need to blow something up remotely. I had no idea how to do that, having never even seen a stick of dynamite. Diego, stay here and watch the hamsters, see where they patrol, especially how often they go by the old town hall, which was now home to the town's only diner and an insurance agency. Stan, Dad, see if you can find a truck or van down there that we can get started, big enough to fit a couple people in the back. Something covered, not an open truck bed. Keep to this side of town. You don't want to cross Route 11 or the hamsters will see you. If you find something, drive it over to Red Brook Road and leave it there. We'll meet back here. Okay, Bish, Tom nodded. What are we gonna do? I took one more look at the Ruha, noting the disposition of their troops without even thinking about it, seeing where they were patrolling through the town and where they had defensive positions around their ship. We're going to the dentist. You have got to be kidding me, I blurted out.
Yeah.
Bish, Stan said defensively. This is the best we could find. It's either this or an old Dodge Neon. Most people got in their cars and left in a hurry, it looks like. There aren't a lot of cars left on this side of the river, Debbie added. Yeah, but... Tom shook his head. There is no freaking way we can drive this. We're fighting an alien invasion. We cannot drive this thing. I had to agree. Except for one thing. It was a perfect truck. They found a delivery van, like a FedEx truck. It was in pretty good mechanical condition. The tires weren't bald. There was some rusted out spots around the wheel wells, but nothing serious. It had big back doors, so several people could get in or out fast. And they reported that it ran and shifted well, with no squeaky belts or squealing brakes. They found it behind the Davis Brothers garage, where it must have been getting the interior rebuilt, because the inside was stripped, other than the driver's seat.
We're doing story
It was a
time.
good truck, except for that one thing. Barney. Barney, the big, purple cartoon dinosaur with the
Hunting
perpetual
me?
stupid grin. Barney and Smurfs, Mickey Mouse, unicorns, and a lot of other fictional characters were painted on the truck. Whoever decided which characters to paint on the truck had made interesting choices, like, why was Iron Man waving to the Smurfs? Was that Darth Vader down near the right front fender, or had someone started painting black primer to cover up a rust spot and decided to get creative? Most of the characters were poorly painted. It took me a minute to realize that what I thought was a sitting Buddha was supposed to be Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the Buddha. It was an ice cream truck, in case you hadn't guessed yet. A ridiculous ice cream truck that I was fairly certain didn't have permission to use any of the trademark characters painted on the side. Also, instead of the familiar Mr. Softy logo, this one had a poorly stenciled Super Softy logo. How could ice cream be super soft? Was it melted? This was clearly a bandit ice cream truck. The kind that I pictured furtively roaming suburban neighborhoods of a big city, selling expired ice cream and trying to avoid local authorities. The giant purple Barney plastered across both sides, and the stuffed Barney strapped to the hood were impossible to avoid. Whoever owned this truck must really, really like Barney. We could throw a quick coat of paint on it, Stan suggested. We are not taking time to repaint the damn thing, I growled. I didn't like the idea either, but this truck is what we had to go into battle with. Besides, the hamsters won't know who Barney is. They may think he's a fierce predator. I didn't believe that one. Oh, for Christ's sake.
Oh.
Susie was exasperated. You idiot men are afraid to ride around in a truck that says Softy on it? Get over yourselves. I'll drive the damn thing. Joe, what's the plan? Go, go, go! I shouted along with Stan as we jumped in to sprawl on the floor of the ice cream truck. Susie didn't need to be told twice. She hit the gas as we were still in the air. Stan would have slid right out the back of the truck if Deb hadn't gotten hold.
Oil burner, technically.
Of his shirt collar. Tom kicked Stan's feet inside and slammed the back door shut just as the truck bounced over a big pothole, and Tom landed on his ass on top of the Ruha soldier. The hamster grunted, which told us it was still alive. I hadn't been completely sure of that when we grabbed it. Looking back, it was a stupid plan, and we got lucky. I'd noticed hamsters went through the alley between the diner building and the hardware store next to it. While the rest of us were off gathering supplies, Diego had watched and confirmed the hamster patrols went through that alley regularly, looking in windows and knocking open doors to look inside. They were doing that all over town. I chose the diner because there was a short dirt road that led from the river right to the back of the diner. The road went
They
through
have
the woods and had good cover
a
most of the way.
loophole down here
It
that
had a
you
lot of
can
rain from a nor'easter
buy
the week before,
an
so the
empty
river was almost at spring
big
flood
container
stage. It
and
was really
the
roaring
oil
as it went over the rocks and
and
under the bridge.
fill it
It
in
made
the
enough
store.
noise to cover the sound of the truck backing up behind the diner. Dynamite was placed inside the diner up against the brick outside wall. We blew it up as the hamster soldiers got halfway down the alley. None of us knew how much dynamite to use, so we used too much. It collapsed most of the wall into the alley. Even the ice cream truck got hit with stray bricks. No matter. Our improved bomb did what it was supposed to do. It knocked those two hamsters silly and buried them under bricks. Tom, Stan, and I grabbed the hamster that was closest to us, and also was least covered with bricks. Debbie covered us with a shotgun as we hauled it out of the alley. Tom and Stan each got hold of an arm, and I held its feet. We scrambled down the alley, tripping on bricks, and tossed the hamster in the back of the ice cream truck. It was a stupid plan. Diego was watching from the hill with a walkie-talkie that Susie got from the quarry. She had the other unit in the truck. Diego reported that as soon as the dynamite exploded, a half-dozen hamsters sprinted from their spaceship. Another 30 seconds, and they would have caught us. And if for some reason, like none of us really knowing how to use dynamite, our
So-
bomb hadn't exploded, those two
They're coils that are encased in this case, they're normally like quartz, and that's also rather well with vaporizing oils, which then can get ingested, as you know. So it's really a tech that's gotten really standardized. It's not like the most premium of experiences, but it's portable.
hamsters would have walked to the back of the alley and seen the truck that wasn't there before. I didn't like our odds against alien soldiers with body armor and advanced weapons. Luck was with us that day, even as Tom fell again, this time into the button that controlled the ice cream truck's music system, and Turkey in the Straw blared out of the rooftop speakers as the truck bounced and skidded down the gravel road along the river. "Shut that damn thing up," Susie yelled at Stan. She had enough to do driving the truck. There was no seatbelt for the driver. That was one of the items removed when they stripped the interior, and Susie's feet barely reached the gas pedal. Still, she had that sucker on the floor, and we were moving. Stan punched buttons, and the music changed to Camptown Races. Then Pop Goes the Weasel, and a couple video game theme songs I couldn't name, before Stan finally got the stupid thing to stop. I never felt like such a total idiot in my life, trying to hold down an alien soldier in the back of an ice cream truck, my chin getting bashed into the metal floor of the truck as moronic music blasts out of speakers and Bonnie's evil twin grins maniacally from both sides. A truck shot through a gap in the trees along the river, a clear space of about 50 yards. This is where I figured the hamsters were going to shoot us. They had a clear shot for a couple seconds at least. Why they didn't shoot, I think, is by that time the hamsters who reached the bombed-out alley realized one of their own was missing and guessed it was in our truck. Anyway, we made it. The truck flew across the gap, then the land rose slightly between us and the center of town, and then Susie was standing on the brakes to slow the truck for a curve. After that, we bounced up onto a paved road, and Susie put the pedal to the metal. While on pavement with a smoother ride, Tom and I got the hamster's hands tied behind its back, tied its legs together, and I started pulling off its gear. We had it under 4 lead vests, the kind dentists use when they give you x-rays. That was my idea to block the signal of any location device the alien soldiers may have. The body armor around its torso had a quick release mechanism, as I
Not a
expected,
terrible strategy.
because human or alien, a soldier needed to get gear off and on quick. I also popped the latch for the chin strap of its helmet, and for the first time, got a good look at the enemy. One of its eyes was open. There was blood from a cut on its cheek, but I didn't think it was badly hurt, mostly stunned and disoriented. It was wearing an earpiece and microphone, which I tore off, and on its belt was what looked like some kind of radio. I told Tom to throw all of it out the window. We could
Yeah,
come
but for
back together
example-
later if we had the opportunity. Our priority then was to capture an alien soldier, so our military
Still don't know how to
could
get the
study
top
it,
off, though.
see what kind of enemy we were facing. Per the plan, Susie drove us a mile down the road to Tom's place. He had a barn, and she drove the truck right in through the open door, skidding to a stop. We all shared an "oh shit, did that really happen" moment. None of us could believe it. The hamster was moving about, so Tom sat on it, and I pointed a handgun at its face. That calmed it right down. It had probably never seen a Sig Sauer before, but it recognized a projectile weapon when it saw it. "I can't hear Diego anymore," Deb reported, holding up a walkie-talkie. "The last thing he said was the aliens were running around, but their ship isn't moving." My last instructions to Diego had been to get out of town in the opposite direction as soon as he lost sight of our truck. I'm sure he was safe. He knew his way around the woods. "They're waiting for a tow truck," I guessed. "What?" Susie asked, like she hadn't heard me right. "A tow truck," I explained. "Their ship is busted. They must have called upstairs to their fleet, and they're waiting for someone to come fix their ship or pick them up. Let's get Fuzzy Face here into the root cellar before his friends get organized and come looking for him." Tom's place had an old root cellar. When I say old, I mean his house dated from 1848, and the root cellar belonged to the house before that. The root cellar had been expanded and converted into a bomb shelter by the family that owned the farm back in the 1950s. Now, Tom and his wife Margie used it for storage. We got the hamster down the stairs and cleared space in the middle of the shelter for it. Tom padlocked a chain around its ankle, with the other end of the chain around a pipe sticking out of the floor. With the hamster comfortable in the center, there wasn't much room for the rest of us, because of all the shelves. Did I mention that Tom's wife Margie liked to can fruit and veggies? The woman had a bit of a canning problem. The whole place was stacked with jars. Most people in this neck of the woods can stuff. It's a way to have good food through the winter, and a lot cheaper than buying food from the store. My folks made applesauce and jams, and canned tomatoes, beans, whatever we got from our garden. Tom's bomb shelter looked like Margie was planning to invite the entire 10th Division over for supper and wanted to have plenty of food left over. "What now?" Stan asked while looking hungrily at a jar of blackberry jam. "Now we wait. The military's gotta be here soon." We'd all been surprised not to see any fighter jets or helicopters in the air, which told me the enemy had total air supremacy. "Hopefully this guy's buddies," I pointed to our captive, "will be leaving soon. When our cavalry gets here, we can hand him over." "What makes you think they're going to leave?" Deb asked. "Because no way would alien invaders have Thompson Corners on their initial target list. These guys are here only because their ship is busted. My big worry is if they stick around to look for Fuzzy Face after the tow truck gets here. I'll stay with them. The rest of you better head south, see if you can find any National Guard or even state cops." Susie was indignant. "You're sending the women folk away to safety?" She had her hands on her hips. I knew what that meant. "You have a family. So does Tom," Susie pointed out. "Tom got a text from Margie," I said defensively. "She and the kids are all right, heading to her mother's place, and Stan's wife is in Portland. My husband is down in Milliconic, and my kids are in Bangor with my sister. I'm staying here," Susie said emphatically, and held up her rifle for emphasis. "Fine," I conceded without much fight. I really didn't want to be alone. "You and Stan have rifles. You get up in the woods behind the house where you can cover the road. Deb, get up to the rock ledge behind the house. You know it, right?" Tell Susie and Stan if you see anything coming this way. Tom and I will stay here with Fuzzy Face. Fuzzy Face wasn't talkative. Tom and I tried communicating with gestures and pointing to ourselves. The hamster sat there stone-faced, except when it shifted uncomfortably, then he grimaced. There was blood, red blood, on its hip. At least alien blood was red and not green or blue or something really weird like that. I approached slowly, hands open to show I didn't have a knife. "We need to look at where you're hurt." I said it slowly and loud, which is
feel like
always the
that'd be a
best
good
way for foreigners to
social
understand.
group activity.
Remember, foreigners are stupid, so you have to talk loud and slow so they will understand you. The hamster shrank away from me as far as it could, backed up against the shelf on the outside wall. I gestured to my hip, then his, then put a finger into the blood on the floor, holding my finger up so he could see the blood. Shaking my head and waving my bloody finger, I spoke slowly to the hamster. "You are hurt. This is bad." "Bish," Tom said uncertainly. "You sure you should be touching that thing's blood? It's gotta be safer than touching human blood. You got bandages down here?" "Yeah, first aid kit's in the cabinet. We got paper towels, too. Margie buys them by the gross at a warehouse store." The hamster wasn't hurt badly. I blotted the wound clean, washed it with sterile water, which made it wince again, and slathered antiseptic lotion on the cut and applied a bandage. It looked at me different after that, like it hadn't expected humans to be civilized. It made a sort of kissing gesture with its lips. "I think it wants water," Tom guessed. Margie had also bought bottles of water by the gross. We got out 3 bottles. Tom and I both drank from our bottles. Then I opened another and held it to the hamster's lips. It downed half the bottle steadily while looking me in the eye. That kind of freaked me out. Then it looked down meaningfully at its left front pocket, gesturing with its nose. Very carefully, I opened the pocket flap, which was a kind of magnetic thing, I think, and pulled out what looked like an energy bar. It didn't have bright packaging like the Hua bars I knew from the army. Just a green plastic wrapper with white writing in an alien script.
I feel like it'd be good for one of those
wrapper open, facing away from me, which was stupid.
interactive maps that
But if it
people
was
can
some kind
edit.
of explosive, and pulling the wrapper just pulled the pin on the grenade. Nothing happened. I sniffed it carefully. It smelled like sugar and nutmeg mixed with sawdust. It was an energy bar for sure. I broke off a piece and fed it to the hamster. It chewed for a long while. I guess their energy bars are as tough as ours. In about 10 minutes, it ate half the energy bar and drank more water, then shook its head when I offered another piece. I felt the same way about our energy bars. Half of one was usually enough for
Those,
me before my
ones-
jaw gets tired.
Ludwig
Further
is
attempt
there's
at
a one guy
interspecies
who has like
cooperation. I held the bar
pixel
up in front of the
background on
hamster
his
as I
page
folded the wrapper over
that
it
had a
and tucked
kind
the
of, like,
remaining half back in its
huge
pocket, next to another 2 full
community
energy bars.
to it.
It smiled.
I feel like the
I
Reddit
tried
channel,
to.
like that Reddit map
Smiling
thing.
without understood context could be viewed as baring teeth in a threatening manner. The hamster had teeth that weren't much different from human teeth. White enamel, it looked like. The 2 upper front
Hello.
teeth were bigger than in humans, but not comically large like a beaver's teeth. Now that I was closer, the fur on its face was fine. It covered all its skin, but the fur was finer and shorter than a human beard. "You hear that?" Tom asked. "Sounds like someone shouting." We'd kept the door to the bomb shelter cracked open so we could hear if Susie saw anything, but mostly closed, so any radio signals from an implanted transmitter in our hamster would be blocked, I hoped. Tom stepped outside. I could hear him shouting with Stan. He stuck his head in the door. I
It
said,
is
"Tow
the
truck is here."
first book out of the Expeditionary Force. They're holding a alien captive that they captured on Earth.
We left our hamster captive in the combination bomb shelter root cellar warehouse and hustled across Tom's backyard into the woods. "It came from the northwest. I saw the contrail first," Deb reported. "It flew right into the center of town. I think you're right, Joe. The hamsters here called for a ride." I hope whatever their mission is, it's more important than finding one missing soldier. If the new alien ship picked up the stranded hamsters and left the area, my plan was to load Fuzzy Face back into the ice cream truck and race south on the highway until we found a military unit, probably National Guard, that could take custody of our prisoner.
I get what you mean.
Let's go up to the rock ledge where we can see. What we saw wasn't
Damn.
good. The new
People
alien
gonna get
ship,
ratio
same
in
type
this.
as the first
Yeah.
one, was circling around the town at about 500 feet. It appeared to be flying a search pattern, and pods on the side of the ship had opened, exposing racks of missiles. There was a flash of light, a rumble of thunder, and a column of smoke from the center of town. They blew up their busted ship, I announced, as if everyone hadn't guessed that. That's interesting. Why? Deb asked. I think it means they don't plan to stay here. At least, not here. I pointed toward the town. And they don't want us poking around their technology while they're gone. If they planned on
It would
staying
take a
here, they
fucking
would have gone
army
to repair
to
crew.
organize that, though. Jesus.
The ship climbed,
Army of
hovered,
YouTubers.
then slowly headed toward us. Not toward us exactly, but east. Then it flew along the river. Shit. Stan spat on the ground. They must have a signal from that stuff we threw out of the truck. I tried to assure people. Nobody panic. That's why we threw that stuff out of the truck. And that's why our hamster is under concrete and earth right now behind a steel door. After our captive was in the root cellar, Stan had thrown the lead blankets over the hood and tailpipe of the truck to reduce the heat signature. Unless they can somehow track us into Tom's barn, it will take them a long while to search everywhere, and they don't know we're not already 10 miles down the road. Stan and Deb had argued for us to keep driving rather than stopping at Tom's place, to put as much distance as we could between us and Thompson Corners before an alien rescue ship arrived. I had vetoed that idea because we didn't know how soon another alien ship would arrive, and because I didn't entirely trust the lead blankets to block a tracking signal. We didn't even know whether the aliens used radio. They might have some more exotic technology. If the aliens could track a signal, it didn't matter whether we were 1 mile or 50 miles away. They were going to find us. Tom's combination, root cellar, bomb shelter, whatever, was perfect to hide a technologically advanced alien. Whether my plan was any good depended on what the aliens did. The alien ship slowly made its way along the river, then sped up and followed the highway south, toward us. After circling twice, it descended out of sight.
Definitely
below the
would
tree line.
encourage people to post.
For a moment, just a peaceful moment, things looked almost like a normal October
Which
day
is
in
a
Grove
big
Maine.
issue.
Tom and Margie's house was tidy.
Hello,
He
Mary.
had a couple cords of firewood nicely stacked in a line behind the house. Margie had corn stalks tied around the lamppost in the front yard, getting ready early for Halloween like she always did. In the backyard, she had the bathtub Madonna decorated also, with a... Oh, I'd better explain what a bathtub Madonna is to you uncultured types. You take an old bathtub, set it on end, half buried in the ground, paint the outside white and the inside a light blue, and then you put a statue of the Virgin Mary under the ark, like a grotto. It's a homemade shrine of sorts. These days you can buy ones already made out of concrete, but that certainly knows if you did it the lazy way. Most people put stones or flowers around it. Margie's shrine was surrounded by brightly colored mums. Or I thought they were mums. I'm not a flower expert. The Madonna had been there when Margie and Tom bought the house, and Margie spruced it up with the flowers. She also decorated it for the seasons. At Christmas time, Mary had a little Santa hat. Right now, for Halloween, Mary was wearing a Jedi Knight outfit, complete with glowing lightsaber that Tom had hooked up. I sure hope God had a good sense of humor. Across the road there were pine trees, lots of pine trees, and then flat fields, a glimpse of the river. It was a nice sunny day. Except for the pillars of smoke coming from town from the smoldering potato warehouse and the burned-out alien ship. And except for the other alien ship now climbing back into the sky, it zoomed up to 1,000 feet and hovered. Yep, I said. We found that alien stuff we threw out of the truck and dropped off some guys to check it out. That ship up there is providing close air support to the guys on the ground. Tom, I counted on my fingers, 7 houses between here and where they are.
Yeah.
10, Tom corrected me. He didn't include the McDonald and Burgess places back off the road. And the old gas station fruit stand that's been abandoned for 20 years. That's 10 places, with multiple structures like barns and garages. They'll be thorough searching each one, right? And that takes time. I bit my lip, which is a thing I did when I was thinking. The alien commander up there has no idea where we took his soldier. What would I do in this situation? We could be in any house or barn around here. We could be in a cave in the woods. We could be 10 miles down the road. He has no idea. Unless our captive had some sort of transmitter that could be detected even from the bomb shelter. They did, after all, have technology to travel between stars. I tapped my chin. That's another thing I did when I was thinking. They only sent one ship. If this was a search and rescue mission, they would have sent several ships. This guy started down from orbit before we grabbed Fuzzy Face. He only planned to pick up hamsters from the first ship. What does that mean? Susie asked. It means the next 5 minutes will tell us what their orders are. If that ship recovers the guys on the ground and flies away, then they're sticking to the original mission plan and they'll handle search and rescue later. If that ship hangs around, then they've scrubbed the original plan and they're waiting for reinforcements to sweep the area. That's what you do?
I know a
Susie
couple
asked.
of people that have pets
That's
that
what
are
we do, the Army.
like that too.
The alien ship descended again, then climbed and resumed hovering, closer to us.
Huh.
Damn.
Thanks for the gold coin.
What's option B? We just dropped off more guys to start searching buildings. I saw Susie check her rifle again. Susie, forget any Cowboy Alamo Last Stand shit. All we've got is 3 rifles, a shotgun, and 2 pistols. If they get close, we head east through the woods. The missiles on that ship could kill all of us from 10,000 feet. We're going to give up? We're not giving up, we're being realistic. I couldn't believe I was arguing with Susie about this. We can't use the ice cream truck again, it's too distinctive. And that alien ship is too close. Fine, Susie shot back. We wrap our Fuzzy Face in lead blankets and carry him into the woods here. It's only a mile to the river from here. We can... Hey, Deb shouted. The sky. More lights. We looked up to see the morning sky twinkling again. There were a lot of lights up there. Oh, damn it. They're bringing in more ships? Deb asked. They can't be. Whoa! We looked away,
I
sparks
do need to
swimming in
make a
our
video
eyes from
here,
a
but,
searingly
you know.
bright explosion in the sky right above us. I blinked, staring at the ground, my shadow flickering as more explosions lit up the sky. Yeah! Stan pumped his fist. We're hitting back! Nuke the bastards! No way. I shook my head. Our nukes don't have seeker warheads. They can only hit pre-programmed targets on the ground. Unless the Air Force had some amazing toys I didn't know about. There were still spots in my eyes. I shielded my eyes and looked toward the horizon. More explosions in the sky, farther away. That's not us. Was that an EMP blast? The aliens setting off a nuke high in the sky to knock out our electronics? We didn't know it then, but the second set of lights in the sky was a Kristang battle group jumping into orbit, then attacking the Ruhar. Then who is it? Tom asked. Hey, look! Debbie pointed up the road. The alien ship that was tracking our captive was descending again, fast. It was on the ground only a few minutes before taking off again, and this time it stood on its tail and went straight up, fast. We heard a sonic boom, and it left a contrail behind. Wherever it was going, it was in a hurry. Whatever's going on up there, that ship just got new orders. Let's get Fuzzy Face in the truck again and bring him to the National Guard Armory before they come back. Then what? Tom asked as we scrambled down the trail, all of us glancing at the sky. We needed to get Fuzzy Face away from the area before the aliens...
See, a lot of that's
changed
the
their minds again.
complications of, like, logistics.
Then I see what my orders are.
The mechanics of that.
If I couldn't contact the
Word.
10th Division, I'd hook up with the local National Guard or reserve unit for now. And we survive. I have a feeling Margie's warehouse of canned goods is going to be more important than these guns, with winter coming on.
Appreciate it, man. Either
Chapter
way.
2. Deployment. Late the following spring, I was in Ecuador, about to be shipped off-world to fight hamsters in outer space. Ain't that a kick in the ass? I was surprised how cool it was in the mountains of Ecuador. My mental images of South America always involved suffocating heat, like I'd experienced in Nigeria. It had been a cold winter in Maine, Not cold in terms of temperatures and snow, which was about average for recent years. Cold in terms of no electricity for a long time, and gasoline and heating oil in short supply. My hometown and my folks were better equipped for the winter than many others across the country. My parents had a wood stove in the house, and another out in the garage/workshop. A family from downstate who'd been frozen out of their apartment building came to live in the garage after Christmas. My father bothered repairing a tractor engine for bales of straw that we packed into the garage walls as insulation, covered by canvas tops.
I get it.
I visited my parents a couple times.
Enjoy the
The
story.
garage was cozy and warm and smelled like new-mown hay. There was another family of 3 plus a single woman living in my parents' house as part of a government resettlement program. Everyone was on their best behavior all winter. The state and federal governments in the U.S. had a rough start dealing with the crisis after the Ruhr attack, fumbling around uselessly. Then they got their acts together and focused simply on getting people through the winter. The Ruhr attack hadn't been what we expected from watching sci-fi movies. Instead of hitting military bases and major population centers, they had mostly destroyed electric power plants and industrial facilities. It was weird. I saw satellite pictures of New York and D.C. after the attack, and other than lack of lights and traffic on the roads, the cities weren't touched. After the Kristang kicked the Ruhr out of our solar system, the U.S. of A. didn't have much working electric-powered infrastructure left.
Thank you.
Phones and the internet were down. Electricity was spotty, if you got power at all. The radio only broadcast emergency messages a couple times a day. TV stations and cable were out. The Navy brought nuclear submarines and aircraft carriers into port in major coastal cities and hooked them up as floating power plants to provide electricity to critical facilities like hospitals. We were slowly regaining electric power across the country, the key word being slowly. When I left for Ecuador, my parents still didn't have power, other than the generator my father hooked up from the tractor's power takeoff. He ran the tractor on a 50-50 mix of alcohol and gasoline, with the alcohol home brewed. The alcohol ate up seals in the engine, so my father and the guy living in the garage replaced the seals every month. They only ran the electricity in early mornings and evenings anyway. There wasn't fuel available for much more. The biggest problem facing America wasn't lack of electricity. It was the economic crash that followed the attack. My father lost his job when the paper mill shut down. Loggers didn't have enough gasoline to run their trucks or even their chainsaws. Without wood pulp, the mill couldn't produce paper. The market for paper had collapsed anyway, along with the rest of the global economy. Industrial nations like the US, Japan, China, and across Europe were hurt much harder than lower-tech areas of the planet, which was ironic. The greater the level of a nation's technology, the worse it was hit by the crisis. The value of technology companies went straight into the toilet, and not just due to lack of demand from the overall economy. Who wanted to invest in Silicon Valley when our new allies, the Kristang, were going to share incredibly advanced technology with us? Except they didn't. The Kristang said we weren't ready, that we couldn't be trusted with their level of technology, and that we needed to focus on rebuilding our current infrastructure. Really, our new allies were a disappointment, other than chasing the Ruhr away. The bulk of the Kristang battle group jumped away within a week after defeating the Ruhr, because Earth didn't have space docks or warship servicing facilities, or pretty much anything else the Kristang needed. They didn't fight the Ruhr for the benefit of humanity. They fought to deny the Ruhr a base in our little corner of the galaxy. Earth was Guadalcanal in World War II. That's how one of the National Guard officers described it. Neither side cared about the place, except as a stepping stone to somewhere more important. The US and the Japanese hadn't cared about the island of Guadalcanal or the natives living there. All either side had wanted was to use that island as a base to push on to the next conquest. The Kristang and the Ruhr felt the same way about Earth. Being American, the world's only superpower, strongest military force in history, it had been tough to think of ourselves in the role of the native primitives. We were watching the Kristang and Ruhr forces do battle over our land with weapons we could barely comprehend. Hey, Bishop! Hey! I spun around, disoriented, to find myself face to face with a guy from my fire team, a guy I never thought I'd see again. Cornpone! I shouted. "Brown bread," he responded, and we hugged and pounded each other on the back so hard it knocked the wind out of me. Jesse Coulter, from Arkansas, and a proud son of the South, which is what he told me when I first met him in basic training. I called him corn pone because that was, I think, something people ate in the South. Brown bread was his retort, referring to a molasses-sweetened, raisin-filled bread in a can that is a New England tradition. I had served him a slice once. Some people heated in the can in hot water, but I preferred to toast each slice. They cut off both ends of the can and pushed the bread out, with the rings from the can visible on the bread. I know. Trust me, it's delicious. Or should I call you Barney now? Jesse laughed. Shit. The story had gotten around. I'd been teased all winter by the National
I like
Guard
the
guys
idea.
I was with. Bonnie and the
You just gotta
Smurfs,
figure it out and
what
get people
were
into
calling
it.
Me and the gang who captured the
Which
alien
means you gotta be
soldier.
posting about it.
Oh man, does everyone know about that now?
I'm working on it.
With the internet kinda back up, the whole planet knows about it. Damn, man, it's good to see you, Jesse said. There's a few of the 10th here, but nobody else from our squad yet. You're the first person from the 10th I've seen, I admitted, looking around for other familiar faces. How'd you get here? Jesse asked as he bent down to pick up the duffel bag he'd been carrying before he saw me. After Columbus Day, I was going to try to get back to Drum, but nobody had enough gas to make the trip. So I hooked up with the local National Guard and asked if they knew what was going on. The Guard colonel commandeered me. They'd been federalized anyway. I figured, what the hell? They gave me a rifle, a helmet, and food, right? Orders officially assigning me to the Guard came by shortwave radio later. So I played soldier in Maine, helped harvest crops, guarded fuel and food convoys, and I got the call to come here. So I hopped a train to Boston, a freight train, riding in a converted old boxcar. It felt like a hobo, even though I'd had a ticket from the U.S. government. No, what I meant was, how'd y'all get here? You fly? Oh, yeah. They put us on a troop train from Boston. It took us 5 days to get to Miami. We flew in about 2 hours ago. We'd flown on a United 767 that had seen better days. Jesse nodded. I took a train to Dallas and sat around there 3 days waiting for a flight. The damn Air Force couldn't scrape enough fuel together to gas up the plane. I hear some units are coming on ships from New Orleans and Houston. You seen this tower thing? The elevator? And just what you can see from here. I don't know about this, compadre. We looked up the mountain. The summit was barely visible under an overcast sky. Shooting straight up from the top of the mountain was a ribbon of white light. When the UN agreed to provide troops to fight under Kristang command, the Kristang had constructed what they called a space elevator, built it in less than a month. They chose this mountain in Ecuador because it straddled the equator. On top of the mountain, the Kristang had constructed a base station with a fusion reactor, and thousands of miles above was a station in geosynchronous orbit. What connected the two stations was a thin magnetic field, basically a stationary lightning bolt. We were supposed to go into orbit on an elevator car that rode the lightning bolt. One of the Air Force guys on my flight said he'd heard the Kristang sent pulses up the magnetic field, and the elevator car was pushed along by the pulse. The elevator in Ecuador was the first to be finished. The Kristang were talking about building 2 others, one in Africa and the other somewhere in Indonesia. I squinted and shaded my eyes with my hand, examining the thin beam of light. I don't know about this either, man. One thing I do know is if the Kristang can do this, I'm glad they're on our side.
They are not on
amigo,
our side.
Jesse agreed. Looking up at the sky, at the lightning bolt I'd be riding into orbit. But what happened to Fuzzy Face? We'd driven south in our ice cream truck until we ran into a state police roadblock, and when the cops saw who was in the back of the truck, we'd been given an escort down to Lincoln, where a National Guard helicopter took Fuzzy Face away. After that, any information about him was classified, and I'd been discouraged from talking or asking about him. Wherever the hamster was, I hoped he was being treated well. A buzzing sound caught our attention. We both turned to watch a group of gray-painted tilt-rotor aircraft flying in formation and coming in from the west. As they approached, the lead planes slowed and swung their propellers up into hover mode, descending like helicopters. Before I could ask, Jesse volunteered. The Navy has 2 carrier groups offshore, the Lincoln and the Reagan. I met some of the Marines around here this morning. They coming with us? 2 carrier battle groups would have sounded impressive before the Ruhar attacked. Compared to alien militaries that could lift people into space on a lightning bolt, our nuclear-powered carriers were obsolete rowboats. Some Marine units are, but these guys? Nah, they're here to provide security for the elevator. I'd heard on the radio that the Kristang left security of the space elevator in Ecuador to the USA. I laughed. Bet they're happy about that. No red-blooded U.S. Marine wanted to be stuck on guard duty while the Army went off into space to avenge the attack on our planet. Hell yes, man. They offered me big bucks for this patch. Jesse fingered the blue UNEF patch on his right sleeve, the logo of the United Nations Expeditionary Force, which is what they were calling us now. National patches, in our case the U.S. flag, went on the left sleeve. Like money means anything now. Jesse frowned and looked down at his clothes. At least those Marines have real uniforms on. I got this at a surplus store in Arkansas. His pants fit, while his top looked to be 3 sizes too big. My own uniform was mismatched. The pants were from the Maine National Guard, while the top, which had been issued to me on the train to Miami, was in an old camo pattern and looked like it had been in storage since the Iraq War, the first one. Or maybe the Spanish-American War. It still smelled faintly of mothballs. Maybe the Army will issue us new unis here. Don't count on it, a familiar voice barked at us. We turned to see Lieutenant Amos Gonzalez, who had been a platoon leader in the 10th. Not our platoon, but a familiar face. Jesse and I snapped to attention and saluted. At ease, men. Bishop and Coulter, right? His face broke into a grin. It's good to see the 2 of you. Glad you made it to the party. Good to see you too, LT, Jesse said. You know how many of us are here? He shook his head, eyes down, as he kicked the dirt with his boot. Communications are still spotty. We're putting people to work as they straggle in. Jesse frowned at Gonzalez, avoiding the question. Hey, LT, all I've seen here so far is us, guys from the Belgian Buzzards. He meant the 101st Airborne Screaming Eagles. The 3rd Infantry and Marines. We're not bringing any armor or cavalry? Lieutenant Gonzalez shot him a scornful look. Coulter, you really want to be in a tank, fighting against an enemy that can shoot down from orbit? He didn't wait for Cornbone's answer. That's a quick ticket to a long dirt nap. The Kristang said they needed infantry, so that's what we're sending. The armor and aviation boys are going to sit this one out. Pardon me, sir, but what the hell good is infantry going to do against the Ruhar? I asked. I don't even have a weapon. Gonzalez nodded sympathetically. The Kristang won't allow weapons on the elevator. We're supposed to get weapons, body armor, and everything else we'll need when we get to wherever we're going. Personally, I like my old M4, but I don't want to go up against the Ruhar with it. We're serving with Marines, sir? I asked. A Marine brigade, yes. And I hear Brits, French, Chinese, maybe some Russians and Indian Army also. You men checked in yet? No, sir. I just got off the bus from the airport, I said. I could still feel the steel slats of the bus seat on my butt. We had come from the airport and climbed the rough, newly cut road in a convoy of garishly painted old school buses that were probably the finest transportation this part of Ecuador had to offer before the Ruhar attacked. Jesse shook his head. I've been here since this morning, and as soon as I got off the bus, the Marines had me moving food pallets. Better get checked in then. You need a medical eval before you take the magic carpet ride up into space. You see that big circus tent over there? The one with the UN flags? He wasn't joking. It really was a circus tent. Get over there on the double. The elevator's leaving at 1700 hours. The tent was a madhouse. Jesse and I weren't looking forward to getting poked and prodded by army doctors. We needn't have worried. The medical exam consisted of standing fully clothed in a booth the size of a shower and having a light beam run down, and up again. When I stepped out, the doctor didn't look up from his computer. You'll live, Bishop. I could see a file with my picture on the computer screen. The doctor clicked a few buttons, and the file was replaced by some other guy's. Next. Excuse me, sir, is that it? I asked, confused. That's it. You just got your first exam with the Kristang medical scanner, and it says you're healthy enough. Move along, people. We haven't got all day. Next. After the medical exam, we got showers with honest-to-God hot water. Although we weren't issued new uniforms, so we put our old clothes back on and then went to another tent for a hot meal, Army style. As far as I was concerned, Army style was a good thing. It meant I got plenty of food. I went through the line and was standing with my tray in hand, looking for a place to sit, when Jesse stood up and waved me over to his table. "This here's Gus, 1st Armor," Jesse said through a mouthful of cornbread, pointing to a guy sitting next to him. "I thought only infantry was going on this trip," I asked. Gus shrugged. "I drove a Bradley. I guess they needed drivers for whatever they've got up there." If the Kristang thought we needed drivers, then hopefully that meant the infantry wouldn't be walking every place we went. Quanpon used a piece of bread to soak up gravy from the meatloaf. "I don't know where we're going, but if it means 3 hots and a cot, I'm all in. Things were pretty lean this winter at home." I didn't know what I expected the space elevator to be, but it wasn't what I expected. It looked most like a waiting lounge at an airport. The huge disc-shaped elevator car had 4 levels, with the lowest level containing the machinery, or so I supposed, since we were only allowed on the upper 3 levels. Cargo pods were slung below the bottom of the car.
I would be
Habitable
punishing
levels
the
were
enemy.
each divided into 8 wedges containing row
And not
after
our
row
friends.
of thinly padded plastic chairs. Chairs with seatbelts.
Ignorance,
The trip up to the
the
orbital
ignorance
station
of
was
our
scheduled
allies
to take 9 hours.
doesn't really equal that crazy shit, you know.
Hours enlivened only by crowding around the viewports and looking down at our receding planet's surface. After a while, even that got old. Time. Then went back for another. Jesse and I explored the place, wandering around, meeting the soldiers we'd be serving with, swapping stories, listening to contradictory rumors. Since the elevator had a capacity of 5,000 humans,
Yes, David.
a good part of a full army division was aboard on our trip. We wandered by one wedge that had been set up as an impromptu officers' mess, poking our heads in before moving along to mix with the rest of the grunts. After I downed 3 sodas, alcoholic beverages not being supplied by the Army, I needed to check out the bathrooms, which I had been dreading.
Good
What
energy
kind of
weapon.
plumbing had the Kristang provided? Either the Kristang had similar biological functions, or they had consulted human plumbers, because I need not have worried. It looked like a typical highway rest stop bathroom, only new and cleaner. The dispensers even had soap. The trip at first was slow. It really was like riding an elevator. There was a subtle pressure of extra gravity and
There's-
a faint vibration.
In
As we
this book
climbed,
series,
yeah.
there's literally a whole joke about Hold My Beer. What's the name of the story? You could... Okay, punishing NATO, can't do it militarily. Economically isn't going to help our situation. It's actually going to already aggravate the economic situation to begin with. And then the third way, it's just going to piss our allies off and make our enemy have an advantage over us. Right now, in terms of the status quo, the whole Iranian issue, I don't know where we're at with that, and I'm not very happy, to be completely clear. But when it comes to the Ukrainian issue, it's been a work of policy instead of common sense, and I'm not very fond of policy over common sense. Common sense is we should support the Ukrainians, because what have the fucking Russians done every single time we have a war with someone? They support that end of the group, and nothing ever happens of it. Right now, the Ukrainians are whipping the Russians' asses right now. So what we should be realistically focusing on is A, copying everything that the Ukrainians are saying about war and support them. Because as of right now, Ukraine is, they have a, the way they're doing drone warfare right now, not only is it revolutionary, but it is maximizing Russian casualties and actually allowing ground to be taken. And two major issues that have been going on in the Ukraine war is Russian denial, genuine reports that are being lied to, you know, colonel to colonel to colonel to general to general to general to world leader to Putin himself think, oh, we have this land and we've got this town, when in fact that town is like 20 kilometers from the front and is in complete Ukrainian control, and they're living in La La Land while Ukraine is taking, you know, city, village after village, slowly actually making ground with pretty much denying the enemy any opportunity to do anything. Every single moment there is enough drones in the air and transport vehicles and logistics and everything being targeted en masse. We should be focusing on that, not punishing our allies over a mindset they honestly need to get their asses out of. They know damn well, without us, NATO would be a shell of what it, what it could have amounted to with European resources. Okay? We have to match this energy and be on the same page instead of playing this game of, oh my god, this is not my war. It is your war. You're president of the United States. You have a responsibility to handle that issue. God, it's been a nightmare. So, no. We should not even be considering it. We're the strongest nation on this planet. We could genuinely dominate if we would just get our heads out of our asses and do something. And in some cases we are, in terms of weapons development and development of advanced tech, of pushing forward in space. But militarily, we're not fucking ready. For the Ukraine and Russian war has completely rewrote the book. The book was pummeled, burned, pissed on, and now a new form of war has been born, and we're simply not ready for it. If acting shady is acting within their own interests without paying attention to us, out of ego and spite and a kind of backhand to the administration or to Trump, again, I get it. He has to deal with the personalities that are, spinning around in the fucking White House. But it's not like they haven't been doing that when they were cooperating with us throughout the years. So, that's it. What about Ukraine? They're essentially adopted a strategy of total drone warfare. Let's just say in a particular region of Ukraine, they could be en masse having an unending swarm of drones targeting trucks, logistics, across the front, near that region or whatever. Essentially forcing the Russian soldiers, that most of them don't even have cover, but the ones that do, they're unable to move, they're unable to launch drones or do anything to fight back, and then Ukrainian units are methodically going building to building, block to block, block to block, to essentially wipe out the Russians and take ground. Oh, for sure. Ukraine is going to be militarily, dominating in the realm of the drone. They are right now. They are experts at that. It's astonishing. Woo. Like, the amount of clips over the last year have been pretty brutal on how Ukraine has been cutting their teeth and prioritizing the absolute destruction of just every type of equipment. Can't do armored movements, armored car movements, convoys. Those don't exist. You do that, they're in small situations with ATVs, motorcycles, and some trucks that have been modified. But for the most part, you don't bring armored movements. It's small units being dropped down and methodically targeted and ripped apart by drones. I don't think it would ever get to that point like that. Nothing silly like that. No Hearts of Iron scenario. It would be probably the war would end. I think the Russians would think of survival minus, an end to the war. They would end the war at a certain point. Because at a certain point, the civilians are going to be like, okay, what the fuck? And actually, storm the fucking Kremlin. But you can never, really ever be so lucky for that type of scenario. In this case, it's a meat grinder in the most brutal of senses. And a weird form of PTSD. Because think about it. These drone units are a couple dozen men. Battalions worth of drone operators. And they're racking up kills in the thousands, tens of thousands. Hundreds of trucks. Thousands of Russian men, soldiers. Countless amounts of different targets being taken out. Oh, alright, my drone hit something, target destroyed. Load up another drone and go on and repeat. And having battalions and battalions and battalions of them doing that across the front. What do you think's happening to the Russians? Now you think, for the most part, the Russians and the Ukrainians were doing that against each other. But Ukraine has figured out how to do it. And with the way that they're just throwing people to the meat grinder instead of focusing on redeveloping a drone warfare to counter what the Ukrainians are doing, they're just pulling the status quo out their ass, and it's a meat grinder. I just thought something creepy. But no, it's brutal.
Atmosphere thinned out, we accelerated, and the artificial gravity kicked on to compensate at what we were told was about 85% of Earth normal. I talked to one of the army cooks who had been up and down on the elevator several times. As we approached the space station, he explained we would slow down, but we wouldn't feel any movement because of the artificial gravity. I expressed doubts about the safety of riding a lightning bolt, especially with Ruha raiders still harassing the Kristang. The cook told me not to worry. Earlier in the week, a Ruha frigate had popped out of hyperspace while the elevator car was halfway to the space station at its most vulnerable point. The frigate had fired off 2 missiles before it got popped by a pair of Kristang patrol destroyers, and defensive lasers on top of the elevator car took care of the incoming missiles. It was nice to know we weren't entirely sitting ducks while we ate snacks and sat in uncomfortable chairs. I managed to fall asleep, slumped over in a chair. I woke up when a Marine kicked my foot. "Rise and shine, Sleeping Beauty. This joyride is coming to an end. Collect your gear if you have any." The Marine moved away, kicking awake other sleepers. Jesse had been asleep on the floor behind me, using his duffel bag as a pillow. I shook his shoulder. "Oh, man, your ugly face isn't what I want to wake up to," he said grumpily. "What's up?" He managed to say through a jaw-stretching yawn. "I think we're approaching the space station. Gonna get a look-see?" The station was a donut with 6 arms radiating out. At the end of 2 arms were what I assumed were Kristang ships, resting what looked like belly down on platforms. One of the ships was sleek and dark, the other much larger and not as powerful looking. While Jesse and I gawked, the cook I'd been talking to earlier came over and squeezed through the crowd to stand next to us. "That," he pointed to the smaller ship, "is a cruiser, and the fat ugly one next to it is the transport ship." "You been on it?" Jesse asked. "Nah, they only let us on the station while the elevator car is unloading, then it's right back down to..."
That whole balloon debacle was fucking good. I'm gonna end the live. Thank you all for joining. I've been live for quite a while. I'll stay out of trouble.